What up? It's Daiquiri, and welcome back to another reaction video. And yes, I know I keep changing places, but this would be the main setup, you know, right here. Okay, but anyways, today we're gonna be reacting to something different. We're gonna be reacting to the game theorists. You know, I've been subscribed to MatPat. You know, before he retired. I've been subscribed to him for so long, but I never really watched him, which is, yes, I know, boo, Sage, oh, you suck. I still love him. It's quite sad to see him go, even though I never really watched much of his videos. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do what I didn't. I'm gonna just watch the game theorists. But anyways, we're just gonna get into this. This is 23 minutes. Let me know if you want me to do more reactions like this. To anything, really. Other than just songs. Sometimes animations and stuff. But yeah, you know what happens when daddy isn't happy, huh? Anyways, let's just get into this video. Hope my microphone wasn't too close.
Greetings, theorists, and welcome to your first day here at Game Theory. Join our community, whose diligence and care for others will help shape a brighter future. Just
What is this?
You see.
Oh, it's Catnap's gas mask. Gas mask. You did not fucking scare me.
Hello, internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that might be
I didn't even know that was
going
gonna
to
happen. I react.
Hey, so are mob games,
Okay.
so fair as...
My reaction to that. Creepy start. I was reacting to it because I seen all this shit that looked fucked up. But I didn't expect that. Anyways, yeah, let's just get back into it.
Game Theory, the show that might be a little late to the poppy party, but hey, so are mob games, so fair is fair. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering why MatPat suddenly sounds British, so let me introduce myself. I'm Tom. I'm from England. I'm allergic to apples. I want to be Dorko at axe throwing.
Oh! Is that...
Oh! And this
Hold
is
up.
my very first episode as the host of Game Theory. That being said, this is...
Hold up. My computer's giving me issues.
Fortnite.
Chop! Looks like Seth MacFarlane, bro. He looks almost exactly like him. Hold up.
Far from the first game theory I've ever worked on. I hadn't actually done the math until writing this episode, but it turns out I've written around 140 theories over the last 3 years working here, which is wild. And I've covered so many different topics too. ARGs like Welcome Home, science and math episodes like Tom Nook is a Crook and Markiplier's Perfect Pokemon, which
Hold up. Hold up. What do you mean? Well, I seen that video, but well, I seen Markiplier's video. I don't think I seen this, but goddamn, what the fuck? Okay. All right. Cool. That's cool.
Home science and math episodes like Tom Nook is a Crook and Markiplier's Perfect Pokemon, which was fun, if not a little weird. And of course, I've written my fair share of indie horror lore for franchises like FNAF, Cooking Companions, and the topic for today's episode, Poppy Playtime. In fact, I've been working on Poppy Theory since the very first video back in 2021. Yeah, much like Matt has been around since the very beginning of FNAF, I've been
Look at
around
his
since
face,
the very
bro.
beginning of Poppy. I was there analyzing every game, every spin-off, every trailer, trying my best to solve.
You know, I hope MatPat at least makes cameos now every now and then in these theories. Let me know. Should I keep reacting to his videos? It'd be a lot of work in editing because, you know, I put a little more editing into my reactions, which is why I probably don't upload enough reactions. But this one's not going to be much edited, but it'll be a little bit, you know, whatever. That's...
What the heck was going on in this abandoned factory? Now, over 2.5 years later, we finally gotten to dive into Chapter 3 Deep Sleep, and oh boy, this was a massive step up. The different enemy encounters,
Oh,
a much
fuck
longer
yeah, man, I've
playtime,
seen it.
and the scare factor was turned up to 11. Oh my god, why? How? Weirdly, not the scariest teacher I've ever had. High school theater was rough. But that moment's a little way into the story, so
Oh, yeah?
let's start from the beginning. We are dropped down a trash chute by the big bad of this chapter, Catnap. After escaping being crushed, we find our way down to a giant underground orb that contains the mysterious and horrifying location that's been teased since the end of chapter 2, the Playcare.
Now, when I first seen this, I was like, what the fuck is this? They go up, and beyond to make these places. What type of place looks like a Godzilla chamber? Like it's holding a Godzilla inside of it. Or Cell Max from the Dragon Ball Super movie. What the fuck? Okay, you know what? Let's just, yeah, that's crazy.
Is the mysterious and horrifying location that's been teased since the end of chapter 2, the Playcare. As we descend, we are introduced to a new character, Ollie, a young boy that speaks to us over a telephone and is working alongside Poppy and Kissy to take down the prototype.
I know you're probably mad at Poppy for not letting you escape, but she needs you. We need
Is that
you.
fucking
You
Gregory?
are our
Gregory.
mission. Together, we can save a lot of people. And by the way, my name is Ollie. Nice to meet you.
Together, we solve some puzzles, have a few hallucinations, and encounter the terrifying Mr. Light and her good friend Barb.
Bitch, I slapped
Finally,
that.
after all that, we come face to face with Catnap. And hey, a final showdown that isn't a chase sequence. Look at you, Mob Games. You really are growing up. After electrocuting Catnap, the prototype lowers his hand from the heavens. Catnap kneels in worship of his god, and 1006 stabs him in the face. We bring back the power to the Playcare, divert the red gas, and use the elevator to escape even lower into the facility.
Ah,
Seriously,
yes.
how deep does this factory even go? Eventually, this game's gonna be up.
Usually, when I'm like watching videos, like explaining information, I'll say things every once in a while. I want to make this video watchable. My reactions watchable. That's why I try to be funny. That's why I put in some funny editing.
Us just trying not to melt from the heat of the Earth's core. But as we descend, we hear the final scream of Kissy Missy fighting something. Poppy yells after her, but we're too late. We lose the light, darkness takes over, and the chapter ends. It's very dramatic and definitely made the wait worthwhile, but Mob Games didn't just increase the quality of the mechanics. They also filled it to the brim with the good stuff. That's right, this Sky Dome is bursting at the seams with lore. We've got
Who the
more
fuck would
VHS
make
tapes,
this
notes,
place
death
still?
messages, all that show us that we were right about the red gas, what the Hour of Joy was, and when it happened. But while this chapter proved some of those theories right, it also threw other theories into question. Namely, what is the true identity of the prototype?
Let's
For a long
see.
time, we believed it to be the CEO of Playtime Co., Elliot Ludwig. However, with the reveals of this chapter, I'm no longer certain that's the case. And it all comes down to two characters. Our newest helper and guide through the Playcare, Ollie, and the
That's
often
what I was
ignored and
thinking.
angry character we hear about from the VHS tapes, Rich. Something old and something new. Feels kind of fitting for my first episode, really. Step into my shiny metal cable car, friends. It's
Now,
time for us to find the truth.
You know, I'm actually not too mad. This guy actually is doing a theory video pretty good, and it does have the vibe like my MatPat would if you were to watch his video. I like it. I like it so far. Steph McFarlane? That's your name from now on. Steph McFarlane? Seth McFarlane. What the fuck did I say? Steph. What is it? Stephen Curry?
Hidden inside this horrifying factory. Kind of makes me feel like Willy Wonka. Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure annihilation. Eat your heart out, Chalamet. So to kick things off,
What do
why
you
do I
mean by
think
that?
Elliot Ludwig is deconfirmed as the prototype? Well, in this chapter, there is a radio program we hear playing while exploring Home Sweet Home.
Local authorities report that the body of a young boy has been found on the estate of the late Elliot Ludwig. Organs, as well as key bones from the skeletal structure, were reported missing from the body.
The child's body was found at his home missing bones and organs.
Perhaps these parts are being grabbed to make the prototype? Because if you've seen the prototype's arm, it had like a skeleton bone, but it looked too big. How would a child's bone be that? Unless, I don't know. Terrifying, bro. Okay.
organs. The pieces that we know are being used to create these bigger bodies, thanks to some paperwork discovered during the Chapter 3 ARG. This flies in the face of our initial theories that Elliot wasn't aware the experiments were being done. Now,
that's
it does say that this was the home of the late Elliot Ludwig, meaning that he was dead when the body was discovered, but that doesn't mean that he was dead when the body was placed there. And given how explicit this is, it feels like the devs are trying very clearly to show us that he knew what was going on. In our recent timeline episode, our proposed solution was that he was aware, but lost his memory during the conversion process, like we see happen to Thomas Clark during the Restoration VHS tape. That's why he turns on the staff despite being involved in the experiments himself. However, I'll be the first to admit that this is pretty speculative. We've not heard from Elliot Ludwig himself outside of the announcement for Playcare. We've assumed that he would become angry because we feel like he wanted to help the kids rather than hurt them, thanks to the adoption posts around the factory.
I'm confused.
But it's a pretty loose connection. I also found this post from Reddit user
I don't understand much at the moment because I didn't like. I'm sure this is like connected. Obviously, okay. You know what? I give up.
Universe on the Game Theory subreddit that showed a drawing from Elliot Ludwig's office during Chapter 2. This drawing is addressed to Elliot, but notice what's at the top of the picture. Mummy Longleg's arm. Meaning Mummy, experiment 1222, had to be in existence while Elliot Ludwig was still alive. So he cannot be experiment 1006. It's basic math.
I'm
so
confused
this isn't exactly
still.
new evidence for Chapter 3, but it is great evidence nonetheless, and it was certainly new to me. Good job on finding that one, guys. So if it's not Elliot Ludwig, then who is the prototype? For that answer, we need to take a look at our something old, Rich. If you have no idea who I'm talking about, I don't really blame you. To be honest, I kept forgetting who he was between chapters. Despite appearing in every installment, he doesn't seem to have any connection to the story whatsoever. He was working in the storage rooms in Chapter 1. He got demoted in Chapter 2 to the, quote, Island of Misfit Toys, which, you know, nice Rudolph reference there. But third time's the charm, I guess, because now in Chapter 3, he's back with another VHS in one of the caves we explore outside the Playcare. When I heard his name, I realized he had to be important to all this. And thanks to this new VHS, I think we know why. Have a listen and see if anything jumps out to you.
I take it you're not a fan of these plays, are you?
Nope. Never liked the feel of it. I mean,
me either.
Don't you think these kids deserve some real sunlight instead of floodlights and painted skies? We're not even allowed to talk to these kids. Isn't that... Sorry, Stu.
Sorry? That...
You know, I find it quite fucked up that these kids are being experimented on to make just mascots to entertain and lure in more. But yeah, I think it's pretty fucked up, man. You know, even Daddy don't agree with that. You know, he's a protector of kids. Only little sisters, not little brothers, because little brothers don't fucking exist.
doesn't sound like the Rich I know.
Well, trying to stop being so pissed off all the time. My wife
Same.
says I'm a lovely man, but I gotta control my temper.
Did you catch it? Rich actually cares for these kids. In his very first tape, he mentions how he feels the orphanage is a good idea, but he also points out it's very on brand for the company, so it makes him seem distant. But in this tape, though, he outright
I think he
says
looks
how
like
he feels
popular
about this
MMOs.
place and how it treats the orphans. Underneath his aggressive exterior, he cares for them, and that attitude seems to be working in his favor.
You know, Richie, with my retirement coming up, they've been pushing hard for me to choose my replacement. I'm thinking
What do you mean?
about giving the role to you.
Really?
Really? Nothing official yet, but I think there's a decent guy beneath all that graft.
He's getting promoted. It's unclear to what position,
I
but
mean,
we do know that the higher up in this company you get,
maybe.
the more you begin to learn about the true nature of things. It's the executives at the company that are running the Bigger Bodies initiative. And so there's a chance that dear old Rich here got promoted and was
Popular.
clued
I'm gonna call him
into what was
popular
going on.
MMOs. He looks like popular MMOs. Ah, man, I miss popular MMOs. If only he didn't sort of ruin himself. I still somewhat like him, but it's just like, no, man, my childhood. But anyways, that's off topic. But yeah, man, you know, he's actually connecting it pretty well. You know, that's why y'all should pay attention. Pay hate a fucking
Given his love for these kids, I have a feeling that wouldn't sit too well. This puts Rich in an interesting position as it primes him to potentially be the true identity of either the prototype or the player themselves.
Oh.
Shopify helps you sell at every...
We know the player is an ex-employee thanks to the descriptions from Chapter 1. The player was recognized by both Mummy and Mr. Light, meaning he had access to both the game station and the playcare, areas that were only really operated by staff members involved in the experiments. Plus, when we looked at the slides of the executive staff members in Chapter 2, one of them was conveniently missing a name, likely so we couldn't figure out who we were. If Rich is getting promoted, there's a chance he was given access to the...
Well, you know, I like Poppy Playtime. I've watched all of it. I've watched all gameplay. Not all of Chapter 3, but... Why the fuck do they have slides? I mean, it fits the theme. Grown-ass men? No.
These facilities and continued to climb the ladder to be an important part of the team. So much so that he was informed of the experiments they had been doing, which would have horrified him and likely led him to quit, only to return years later. The problem is, the letters that fell off the sign of the executive slides don't spell Rich, or Richard, or anything that would point towards him being an executive. The tapes also show Rich to be an aggressive type who isn't afraid to speak his mind. For him to miss the hour of joy, he would have had to just run away, which doesn't feel in character for him. I also don't think Playtime Co. would be particularly happy with someone who knew what was going on and had a tendency to make a fuss about it just leaving their position. I mean, just look at Paul Rowan Stoll, fed to Boxy Boo for discovering the truth and planning to release it to the public. Which is why, look at Paul Rowan Stoll, fed to Boxy Boo for discovering the truth and planning to release it to the public. Which is why
brutal.
It's far more likely that Rich is the one that goes on to become the prototype. The VHS shows that while Rich is trying to keep it under control, he has a temper on him, which matches nicely with the prototype's violent tendencies.
Because the next day I got demoted down here to the freaking island of misfit toys!
The prototype seems to possess an unprecedented level of intelligence, as well as an alarming willingness to commit violence.
Rich is also temperamental, flying into these aggressive moods with very little prompting.
It's just hard to be happy about it when manufacturing's on our necks about it, because we can't fight stupid hockey boxes!
Which is exactly how Leif Pierre described the prototype during the Chapter 3 ARG, temperamental. Now, we know these experiments can lose their memories, like Thomas Clark did during the Restoration VHS, but most experiments do retain some kind of core personality traits. For example, Catnap has unwavering faith in the prototype, something he had back when he was the orphan Theodore. And so the prototype being aggressive tracks with...
I love Catnap, actually.
There's also the prototype's initial goal, which seems to be stopping more toys from being...
Besides all the fan base, the shit you see these days, Catnap is actually a fucking badass character. Creepy. Very well made. I like him a lot. You know, I'm sure this is obvious, but you know how the prototypes take each one of them, you know, huggy wuggy, maybe kissy missy, if that's what happened to her, catnap and all that. I feel like it's obvious that the prototype's probably going to be mixed with all of these characters. So I can't wait to see how that looks. But that's cool, bro.
With Rich's predisposition. There's also the prototype's initial goal, which seems to be stopping more toys from being made, stopping children from being experimented on.
They are trying to build more toys, more like you.
Is that the prototype's voice?
Which again ties into Rich's protective attitude towards these orphans.
Don't you think these
Look
kids
up the voice actor.
real sunlight
Maybe
instead
that
of
can connect.
floodlights and painted skies?
But once again, that's all interpretation. Mapping one character's emotions onto another isn't exactly solid proof. However, there is one more piece of evidence that I think ties Rich to the prototype in a pretty undeniable way. Outside the Playcare Dome, we can find Catnap worshipping the prototype at a shrine that's built using scrap metal and toy parts. But what's interesting about it is this part right at the front, a human skeleton, acting as the head of this abomination. But it's not just any skeleton.
What the fuck is that?
This skeleton is wearing a hard hat. I know, that seems like a really random detail, but think back to all the tapes we found of Rich so far. Each one has been found in the location that Rich was working in. Chapter 1 was the storage room, Chapter 2 was the rejected toy room, and in Chapter 3 we find his tape inside the cave next to toolboxes, construction platforms, and builder's lights. Rich was working in construction, likely after being demoted again from the rejected toy department. Now, I'm not saying that this skeleton is rich. Instead, I'm saying that much like the shrine is symbolically showing us the prototype and how it's made of lots of toys, this skeleton is symbolically trying to
Basically, what I said, except just the main character. I don't know. Who knows? But, you know, hey, the game theorists, they're pretty good at putting shit together, bro. Honestly. Okay. Alright, let's just get back to it.
tell us that Rich, a construction worker, is the human inside the prototype. A man who was angry at the company for destroying the lives of these innocent children, and so given the opportunity, took revenge. It also lines up pretty well from a timeline perspective. It might be easy to think that if Rich became the prototype, he couldn't be angry at the company or their experiment, as the children weren't turned into toys until after the prototype was made. But that isn't necessarily the case. Remember, the prototype is experiment 1006, and in Elliot Ludwig's office, there's a note talking about the experiment using poppy gel to revive dead rats. It's the one that has the line about using larger subjects, i.e. children. This test was
Wait. What?
And in Elliot Ludwig's office, there's a note talking about the experiment using poppy gel to revive dead rats. It's the one that has the line about using larger subjects, i.e. children. This test was labeled 814.
From a plant?
Almost 200 experiments before the prototype came into existence, meaning there were 200 failed experiments before they found success. This is what Rich discovered. The plans to turn these kids into monsters. Maybe he even witnessed those 200 experiments fail. The lives of those orphans lost in the pursuit of science, innovation, and cheap labor. So he did what he always did. He complained. He tried to get it shut down, but obviously it didn't work. And Playtime Co. did the only thing they could do to stop him going to the press. They used him as another test subject, helping to create the first successful experiment 1006. And so he rallied the toys to help him take revenge on those who harmed him, promising them the one thing they'd longed for.
Here's one thing you need to do before you buy anything online.
Here's
Don't
one thing you
spend
need to
another
do.
dime on
I'm sure you're just doing your job. You're in advertising. Nothing against you, but get the Oh shit. Hold up.
On them, promising them the one thing they'd longed for.
By the way, my laptop's slow.
That is a clip from the song Sleep Well by CG5, a song made in partnership with Mob Games and was posted to the official Mob Games YouTube channel.
That shit was a banger. I wish I reacted to it.
But what's more important is the extra lore hints it gives
I listened to
us.
it
The song
off
shows the toys prior to the Hour of Joy, repeating over and over again that they want freedom. This was the reason for rebelling and causing the Hour of Joy. This is what the prototype was promising them. And as we know, they succeed. They kill off all the staff members. They have control of the factory, save the orphans, and yet, when we return, the toys are still here, still serving 1006. They never got their freedom, but why? Well, in the song, we do hear this repeated lyric, an artificial facade from a fraud of a god. And it makes way...
Artificial facade from the father of a god. Okay. Right, that's crazy. What made him keep them there? Why'd they do all that? Like, the Hour of Joy? Wasn't that to be free? Perhaps. I don't know. We'll see.
Way more sense when you check out the other version of this song that was released on the same day on CG5's channel. The song is exactly the same, but the video is different. It's set after the Hour of Joy with a destroyed Playtime Co. factory, scratches, dust, and blood lining the walls. The toys are still singing about freedom even now, and so it feels like Mob Games spelling out that 1006, the only character we know that has been compared to a god, is a liar. And we can see this for ourselves in the Chapter 3 death screens. We've believed for a while that these death screens are not coming from just one person, but rather multiple. Most notably, however, any message with capital letters seems to be coming from 1006 himself. And in this game, one of them stood out to me. This research must stay buried. Nobody may leave. He was never going to let the toys leave the factory. Instead, he wants to keep everything locked.
Okay, makes sense. Maybe he's trying to prevent chaos from outside Batman. No, I'm or I don't know. I'm probably not understanding shit, but hey, they're stuck in there. Maybe he doesn't want it to spread to the world. But all those people in the Hour of Joy had to be a sacrifice to it. To keep them all. Like, keep everyone away from them. Maybe that's it, you know? Okay, let's... Okay.
to weigh. And I get it. I'm not sure the world is going to be super accepting of a bunch of flesh-eating sentient toys. But more importantly, if all these experiments were done in the pursuit of cheap labor and eternal life, it wouldn't take long for others to try and do the same thing again, harming more children and causing more pain. The toys from Playtime wouldn't be safe either. They would become
fucked up people in this world like that.
Queso! Apart and taught them so they could figure out what makes them tick. It would mean more pain and suffering for those who've already suffered enough. As one of the death messages says, these souls deserve peace, which won't come to them if they are released into the outside world. But clearly they aren't at peace down in the factory either. Like the song shows, they're still begging for freedom all these years later. And now characters like Kissy Missy are helping us because they realize the freedom that 1006 promised them isn't coming. They're turning on him, they're restless, which then leads Catnap to tie up and torture anyone that loses faith, these so-called heretics, like we see with Dog Day. However, it is Catnap who is blinded by his faith, because another death message reads, burn this place to the ground. Combining that with the message from earlier about keeping all the research buried, and I think we have a pretty strong idea of what the prototype is planning. He wants everything the company ever touched destroyed, be it the poor children that got turned into toys, or the executives of the company like us who performed these horrible experiments. All of them must burn along with this place. From his perspective, this is an act of mercy, at least for the toys. They will finally be put to rest. Finally, they will know peace. Which is why while Catnap is suffering during Chapter 3's final boss fight, rather than helping him, the prototype kills him and drags him away. He stopped Catnap's suffering. But for those of us who did these horrible things, we need to see justice. And that is why we are here. We are the last senior...
That's actually... Everything being put into this is making sense now. Now that I'm getting a refresh on the story and shit. And all that. That, man, he motherfucker. Big brain.
employee that remains. We need to pay for our crimes to make sure that the horrors that happened in this place never happen again.
Terrifying,
but for that to work, he'd need to lure us here, to put us in dangerous scenarios we likely won't escape from. Something that stood out to me was the final tape we receive in this chapter, a tape from Harley Sawyer, the doctor, the one who started the Bigger Bodies Initiative, talking to 1006. There are a couple of key details in this tape, like the fact that Prototype occasionally slips from singular pronouns to plurals.
I possess
a question. You stick us.
Beat us.
Tear at flesh.
Do you feel it?
Which does make sense, considering him adding other toys to himself, making them part of him, like Mummy Longlegs told us. But the big takeaway for me was this last section.
Regardless, I learn something new about you every day.
Thank you.
You thank me.
Absolutely.
I learned something
This fucking Bumblebee.
every day.
1006 has the ability to mimic voices, and specifically voices he's heard, rather than just voices.
Bro thinks he's dumb. That's cool though. Damn it, that's freaky, bro. How did a mother be in the same room with this thing and just talk to it? It's be like that. Also makes sense because when he says he learned something new about the prototype every day. The prototype just learned that he learns that. And then now he learns that. What?
Of the people that are a part of him. That is the last thing they tell us about 1006 in this chapter. It's literally the parting words we get from these VHS tapes, which again tells me they're important to bear in mind when we look back at this chapter. And while I could make a joke about there being a robot that can mimic people down in the basement seeming a little bit familiar, I'm gonna hold off because it actually ties into another character I promised to talk about today, our new helper, Ollie. Ollie felt like a weird addition to
about
this
time.
chapter, and not just because he sounds exactly like Rick.
Oh, that's what I said. That's cool. Just to learn all about one character, it just takes a lot. You gotta put so much together, bro. And how these people put them together, this guy too. Man, that's some detective type shit, bro. I mean, I do the same thing, but with real people, which is how I learn if I should be, like, in contact with them or not. I don't know. But, yeah,
Gregory from Security Breach.
Hey, can you hear me?
Today, I'm going to try and do an AI video.
Hold
First
on.
thing I'm going to do is...
Hey, how you doing? create codes and AI and stuff. Cool.
If AI takes over the fucking world, you'll be to blame too.
Gregory? Is that Gregory?
Gregory? Someone said Gregory. Stop. Not Gregory.
Gregory? You made it here? Oh no!
Who's this? Gregory? No.
Dan to you. Mark.
Gregory.
Yeah, you're not really
Mark.
helping the whole FNAF connection here, Mob Games. Regardless, I found his presence odd purely because of one crucial detail. He's a child. The factory has been abandoned for 10 years. Any
shit.
child that somehow survived this
He's
long
a child!
will be at least a tween at this point. And he does have to be inside the factory as well. Otherwise, how does he send us keys to the various parts of the playcare? It also seems unlikely that this is just a toy with a child's voice. Every toy we've encountered, Mummy, Poppy, Dog Day, all have adult voices. So if he was a toy, he wouldn't sound the way he does. But then, who is he? Simple. I'm suggesting that Ollie is a voice that the prototype is using to deceive us and Poppy. There's this drawing from
That has to be
that shows a
inspired by
child
security
playing with
breach.
all the bigger bodies.
Ruin,
And
no
in it,
way-
you can
no
actually
way.
see Poppy standing there playing with the child. Poppy is the one that tells us to trust Ollie, which makes me think that he might
Poppy
have been a
looking
child
goofy.
she played with in the facility. And that's why she's willing to trust him. Plus, if you go through the game files and look at previous maps, you can find a room in
Damn.
Home Sweet Home.
Hold up.
Plus, if you
You
go
see
through
that?
the game files and
Damn,
look at
two
previous
catnaps.
maps, you can
Hold
find
up.
a room in Home.
You see how long they are? Well, hold on, let me go back again.
That's why she's willing to trust him. Plus, if you go through the game.
You see that? The tails. Damn. I gotta shut the hell up.
Game files and look at previous maps, you
I
can
gotta
find a room in Home Sweet Home called Ollie's room, meaning he was a real child in the playcare at some point, which would have allowed
Whoa.
1006 to mimic him. And here's the thing, up until now, we've managed to escape both the likes of Huggy Wuggy and Mummy Longlegs without any help from anyone. Why now
Bro,
do we
just-
suddenly need help to get through the playcare? Sure, Ollie does have all the keys to the facility, but when it actually comes to things like puzzles and monsters, he doesn't offer us any help or advice. He goes quiet and just leaves us to it. The only time he speaks to us is telling us where to go next, leading us into more and more danger.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you beat
Oh.
Catnap, you also get this weird line.
Wow, you did it! You must feel pretty good. With Catnap dead, you're one big step closer to the prototype. One step closer to winning. You've made your choice. You're staying to help Poppy. Well, finish the job. This win is yours.
The words are technically correct.
Wish I could say that on Fortnite.
But the tone feels off, almost sarcastic, especially that line, "You've made your choice." Like, my guy, I've been helping Poppy since the beginning. That hasn't changed. And also, I couldn't have spoken if I wanted to. What I think this is a slipping of the mask. Ollie accidentally revealing his true self because he doesn't want us to win. He wants us dead. Now, he doesn't speak entirely in plurals, but as I mentioned earlier, neither does the prototype, especially when he's mimicking someone else.
I learn something new about you every day. I learn something new about you every day.
That being said, Ollie does occasionally use lines like this.
But she needs you. We need you. You are our mission.
You are our mission.
You know, yeah, he was like, I learned something new about you every day. Why does that sound like that? When he said, I learned something new about you every day, he said, you gotta learn. Wait, I learned something new about you every day. Bro said that shit like, you. No, bro.
In the context of the scene, it feels like he's talking about him and Poppy, but calling us their mission feels like a strange choice of words, especially when you remember that 1006's mission is to lead us here and kill us. Throughout the rest of the run, he also uses we a lot, again, in a way that could be interpreted as him talking about himself and the player, but then there's lines like this.
We need to make that red smoke go left instead.
The we in the subtitles is capitalized, and despite multiple updates to this game, it's still there, at least at the time of recording, which makes me think it's a purposeful decision. This isn't the first time we've heard from Ollie either. During the trailer...
You know, bro thinks he's Venom. Oh, yeah, but, yeah, man, this theory has been pretty fucking good. It's almost done. I don't know how long I've been recording for, but I've probably been recording for a good, like, almost 30 minutes over that because of the pausing, so, yeah. But yeah, pretty good, pretty cool.
from Phase 3 of Project Playtime, we actually hear him giving the opening monologue, teasing us as to who he really is.
Compassion is the discarded gem of the Forsaken. Call me a Forsaken fool.
If that's not him admitting he doesn't care about us and our freedom, I don't know what is. He has lost his compassion, just like Rich, the prototype, lost his compassion not only for his fellow staff members, but also for the children he wanted to protect. He will kill anyone that stands in his way, just like we hear happening to Kissy Missy at the end of the chapter. Him telling us that he is a wayward plaything cast aside and lost in the depths of abandonment is literally what happened to the prototype. He was just a plaything to Harley Sawyer. And
yeah, I forgot to tell y'all. If y'all see me looking around, it's because I'm looking at my table. It's a very shaky table.
Into the depths of the facility once he finished serving his
Sounds
purpose.
like someone.
And remember when I said that
joking.
1006 speaks in capital letters? Well, in Project Playtime, the VHS tapes use the same capital letters, and its use of plurals seems to confirm that our theory that this is 1006 is right. We understand you desire answers. You wonder who we are. It was your doing that made us. And in Phase 2, we actually receive a gift from 1006. You may have noticed it. It is the phone, a telephone that will be oh so familiar to anyone that has played Chapter 3.
Yes.
Hey, can you hear me?
The telephone, the monologue, the mimicking voices, it all points to our new friend Ollie actually being the prototype.
Oh, yeah?
A fake voice mimicked from a child he once knew to give us a false sense of security and allow us to be manipulated. All in the hope of fulfilling his goal of burning down the company that has tortured so many people. But after all this time, the prototype, Rich, the once kind man who dared to stand up for what he believed in, he doesn't care who he hurts. You, Poppy, even the children he swore to protect. Their deaths are now just what it takes to see Playtime Co.'s legacy removed from the face of the earth. And so, if we want any chance of surviving the next chapter, we need to remember one thing. Don't trust Ollie. And also remember, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you're hungry for more Poppy lore, well, have I got a video for you. Over on the left, you'll find the Poppy Playtime timeline that we did just before the release of Chapter 3. It's a little out of date in places, but I promise you it's a great video. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can always go and watch the video on the right, an episode of GT Live where Matt and I discuss the behind-the-scenes lore of episodes I've worked on. As always, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next week.
Alright, but anyways, that was my first reaction to a game theory episode. Now, I actually enjoyed that. I think I'm gonna keep reacting to it if y'all like it.
Do y'all like it?
But anyways, yeah, that was amazing. Actually, I like that. Look at this, right here. See this? Dislike. Alright, anyways, that was today's episode of reacting. Triple slap that like button. And subscribe. Goal once again, 500 by the end of the year. I know we can get to it. But you know, see, Daddy's happy. If you look at Daddy, look, see him? He's happy. No one said hi to him at all. Not at all. But you really should. But he's happy about the success of the Sister Location song. Thank you, guys, for supporting that song so much. Means the world. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the Game Theorists, and all the other channels they have. But yeah. Thank you for watching.